Hi, and welcome to How to Soar in Uncertain Times. My name is Diane Haworth. I'm a heart-centered success coach, a speaker, an author, and I'm also the founder of the Be Love Principles. And I am it would not even be true to tell you I'm excited today. I woke up at 2 a.m. with questions that I wanted to make sure I asked my buddies, Melly and Victor. These are two of my very favorite people. I'm going to introduce them to you, and then I'm just going to give you a little idea of what we're going to be doing today. So, and Mally, I just even had to write it down because I was so excited I was afraid I'd forget. So this is Mally Ponpadath. She is the CEO of SOAR Community Network, which was kind of a cute play on words, I think, on our title today. But she's also a TEDx speaker, a poet. She has Amazon international best-selling books. She's a musician along with her husband, Victor, and I know because I have attended their Zoom and Facebook concerts, which are lovely, by the way. So Victor is COO of SOAR, but he's also an IT expert. He is one of the most patient people on the planet, and I just think that every time I call him and say, Victor, I don't get this. How do I make this button work? And he's also, you've got military experience as well, don't you?
Yes, in the Air Force.
So you'll see why in a second, why these people were absolutely the perfect for this discussion. Now, while we are obviously all in uncertain times now, because we are all living through and sharing the experience of a global pandemic, one of the things that really excited me about this particular conversation is just a reminder that we are always in uncertain times in one way or another. When I think of natural disasters, there are hurricanes. Even though that has a window where we are looking for a storm to hit and then we deal with the aftermath, you know, perhaps we could ask the people of Puerto Rico, are they still living in uncertain times? Even things that seem to have a short window don't necessarily have a short window. My son used to be a first responder here in Virginia and would be one of the forest firefighters that would go to California to fight those fires. We never knew how long that was going to last or what was going to be happening with that. That was very uncertain. Some of us on this call actually have received or have loved ones who've received dire health diagnosis. That's uncertain. You don't know that there's a beginning and an end to that. So not only those kinds of things, a new marriage, you may think you know what you're getting into, but that's uncertain. Raising a child is uncertain. You think you got that down. And if you do think you have that down, you must be a very young parent or a first-time parent and you haven't lived through some things yet. Certainly businesses, careers, we live with uncertainty all the time. So what I wanted to talk to my beautiful friends Melly and Victor about today is how do we meet these times of uncertainty? Not only where we're sharing the experience, and we are always sharing it with somebody, our families, our friends, our communities, our countries, in this particular case, the world, but how do we meet that with grace, with purpose, and how do we soar instead of survive? Now, before we get started, I do want to acknowledge, and I believe my friends think the way that I do, we absolutely understand that any challenge brings heartache, brings suffering to certain people and lots of people. So we're not negating that in any way. That is not the intent of this conversation for me. It's how do you meet whatever is happening to you with more presence, more love. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So with that, I'm very excited to welcome my friends. And here's the first question I have for you. And I would ask you all to be asking this of yourself. How do you specifically, personally meet the stress of uncertainty? And Mally, let's talk to you first. How do you do that?
I have my routines on a daily basis that really support me now more than ever. Yep. I have been doing EFT for many, many years now, emotional freedom technique. It's a tapping method that allows us to unlock energy and move it through our body. So I do that every day in the shower. And when I don't take a shower, because when COVID-19 and I might skip a day, I do find moments in the day to make sure that I'm at least tapping one time a day so I don't lose that routine. I also have a gratitude journal. I don't write in it every day, but what I've done now is move it closer to my bedside table so I can see it, and then it will remind me to focus on the positive, especially before bed, because we do heal and we process a lot of information when we're sleeping. And I know that I've read a lot of articles recently from Psychology Today and such that many people are having vivid dreams and nightmares. It's because we're processing and trying to cope with what we may not necessarily want to be doing during our waking hours. So those are some of the things that have helped me. And then also, especially in the context of being in a relationship and partnership with my husband and my business partner, is talking it through, is speaking about it, is just getting it out of our chests and into the room so that we're not holding back or holding on to things that are unspoken or unsaid. That helps alleviate some of my worries and anxiety as well.
And certainly right now, there's nowhere you can hide, right? I guess one of you can go in the kitchen and somebody else can go in the bedroom. But I mean, you two are married, you're business partners, your whole world is in the home now. So that communication is a wonderful piece. And I absolutely agree that having your own spiritual practices, those go-to foundations are really helpful. Victor, what about you?
Yes. So I would say I'm eating more, which I'm trying to stop. It's very easy when you're in the house. When you're outside, it's easy not to eat so much. But so I go walking after that too.
Oh, good.
And actually, we have found that doing the walking meetings is more productive.
Oh, because you're in
Well,
movement. That makes sense.
yeah, you're moving around. You discuss things. You have a certain route. It relaxes you a bit more. Recently, we did tele yoga, I would call it, with I guess a Nebula member. Her name is Sarah Shane. She's amazing. She guided us through a mini yoga session. That was awesome. I'm gonna definitely do that again. And it
Oh,
was in the middle of the
fantastic.
day, so it kind of like divided the day up for us too. It was really good. And really, I love my close friends and family, so connecting with them also makes me happier. I mean, I'm always happy to be around Mali, obviously,
Yeah.
but my other friends, making sure that they're okay. I mean, my dad recently, he got COVID and he recuperated, but that was very stressful. But between my friends and him as well, just making jokes and laughing about it, we got through it.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, for the people who may not be aware, and I do want to be totally transparent, I'm actually part of the SOAR Community Network, which is what they run, and tell them a little bit about what Nebula is, just so they understand what that is.
Well, Nebula is a place where mindful and conscious leaders, and we say leaders meaning you don't have to be a business owner. You could be a leader and be a mid-level department head or somebody like that. It's a mindset too. They get together to collaborate, to mastermind, and to learn from each other. And we created a platform online where people can join and do that type of networking, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
People like the ones that are in this meeting, it feels like, are
Yeah, we
part
got
of that
lots of
group.
them. We got lots
Yeah,
of them here.
yeah, we
Yeah.
love people that are positive, that want to do something. They think more about the we than the me. And I feel like a lot of people even in this meeting meet the category, at least the ones that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the idea of the we and the fact that it goes with the oneness that I believe in. When I'm thinking about how do I meet the stress of uncertainty, I go back to when my dad was ill in the last years of his life. And one of the things in retrospect I realize is it's so much easier for me individually when I understand not everybody reacts the same way. Not everybody reacts to uncertainty in the same way. And to be able to give somebody the space and respect that they need to respond in the way that's right for them actually helps me not get frustrated, not be upset. And I just think it helps honor them in their path. The other thing that I thought about was, especially in uncertain times, however that is for you, a new family member, you're getting married, you're starting a new business, I think it's so important to redefine what is success for that period of time. What is success? And for me, I like to think of that as mind, body, and spirit. What is success for me in this situation, health-wise? What is success for me right now, emotionally? What is success for me? How do I stay true to my spiritual core? So looking at those and just redefining, Victor, you said you all go out for walks. I know that you guys usually do everything because, full disclosure, I live vicariously through their Facebook posts most of the time. It's like, oh, look where they did. This is so cool. Look where they went. But we're not doing that right now, right? So redefining what is success for me in this moment. And I love the idea of mind, body, and spirit, because to me, that just helps me appear to manage, right? We can only manage so much, I think. Tell me how you would advise businesses, because I know you work with lots of organizations, businesses, and to me, let me just say for the people on this call, if your business is running your household, that's just as important as anything else. You have an organization to manage, whether it's your household, your community, your church, your traditional business, whatever that is. Melly, where are you seeing businesses deal with this stress, and how is that working for them?
I think it runs a spectrum. I really do. There are leaders that we've interviewed and talked to that have kind of gone beyond the fear and the frozenness of fear, and they're thawing out, and they're realizing the only way that we can thrive through this or get beyond past the survival mode into thriving is to really pivot. And what we mean by that is to create short-term plans based on what we know.
Yep.
It's harder to do long-term plans because there's so much uncertainty, and focusing on ways to be more agile and more resilient during this time. We have been talking to a lot of leaders on using behavioral science to help them navigate this, because it's a very emotional time. And when it's an emotional time, it's very subjective. We react. We may not have slept as a leader for days. We may have other things going on at home that won't allow us to focus. And then we may be making decisions that are reactive and not coming from a place of love or trust, but rather of fear and anxiety. So making sure that we provide them with the tools, along with the mindset, to make decisions that are rational, that are not just going to support them in the here and now, but that's going to help sustain them through this time. Those are some of the things. And then we also have very honest conversations, including in our weekly mix and mingles or ideations, where we also are dealing with a pandemic. We have family members like ours who have been sick, and friends who have actually passed away because of COVID-19, unfortunately. We have friends who are first responders. The anxiety is real. It seeps into even our household. It's in our news feeds, even if we try to only look at the news once a day just to stay abreast of things. So we've heard it all. We've heard from, I don't know if my business will survive this time. I don't know if I'm going to have to let go of everybody in my company, to we're going to figure out how to keep everybody in the payroll, get a consensus of what we need to do to reduce the amount of income that we have to give, but bringing everybody together to stay connected and to get through this time. So we've heard it all. The advice that I would say is be very transparent with your team, be honest with yourself. People are looking for you to lead right now, and that means being vulnerable enough and being honest enough to say, I'm scared too, I am with you, and then figuring out ways to operationalize this whole cliche that we've been hearing, or concept that we've been hearing, is we're in this together. Well, if you truly are, how do you set those values, and how do you operationalize it so that everything you do and experience helps them feel that you really are as a team in this together?
And it's not about denial. We're not in any way suggesting that we pretend this is not what it is, or whatever uncertain time that you find yourself in, whether it's the health challenge or anything else. It's about meeting that. And I love the idea that you use the word freeze. I've worked with a mentor of mine as a psychologist that believes in the fight, flight, or freeze, which I've never heard it that way, but I know there are certain times when we got my dad's diagnosis, I just, everything stopped. It just stopped for me and for our family for a while. There is that freeze element. So to feel it, to recognize it, and then decide, am I going to stay here or how can I move past this? To me, I think that's really important. Victor, what would you add to that?
I think Mali covered it, but maybe I'll reiterate. Being clear about your strategic objectives and making sure that you're sharing them, right, with the people that are helping you meet them. And being clear about your core values. So the example of we're in this together is a very great example, right? We're in this together sounds different to a person that was living paycheck to paycheck before this than to somebody that, you know, has $1 million in the bank and they'll be okay. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, totally.
being honest about even those differences and talking them through, especially with your employees. We've seen a lot of great businesses handle this very well. I mean, it's very admirable what they've been doing in terms of protecting their employees. And they'll remember, right? They'll
Yeah.
remember that when this passes. So it's really being clear about the objectives and being clear about your core values and living them. I mean, we're doing that ourselves. Fortunately, we didn't have any employees, so we didn't have to worry about if we fire somebody or not. But
Right.
that would have been stressful, I tell you. But I think we would have followed up with our core values too.
Well, I think that's important too, to recognize that individuals are experiencing stress in a different way. And I've seen it, of course, you can't watch television or listen to anything without seeing the we're in this together thing. To me, it's not just our organization or our family, it's our communities, our country, our world. This is so much bigger than one or two of us. And we can recognize, I think, the real suffering and the fear like you all have experienced when you're worried about family members. We've had that as well. And of course, you know, things are uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 days, 10 months, 10 years. We don't know any of that. But we can be as transparent as we can right now, even if that transparency is, I don't exactly know what's happening right now, but we're doing our best to figure it out. I mean, to me, I find that actually comforting in a way. So let me ask you, in this idea of soaring versus surviving, to me, there is a difference there. And it does not mean we deny our own pain, the pain and suffering of our friends or communities, businesses. That's not what this is about. It's facing this head on and figuring out or deciding or choosing maybe how you're going to move through it. So Mali, what do you think about this idea of soaring versus surviving, and how do you relate to that? How do you discuss that with the people in your community, actually?
I think everything is mindset and a feeling, a sense of security during these very scary times. We always operate from surviving if we're scared.
Yeah.
If we allow uncertainty to take over every functioning part of our organs, as well as our mindset, our energy, our experiences. Taking off the glasses and putting on new lens is going to be very important during this time. It doesn't mean that you get up and your glasses aren't foggy. We're living through a pandemic, at least in my lifetime. I've never lived through a pandemic before, and I've been on this planet 4 decades now. So
well, I got a couple more decades on you, and this is my first like this.
So what I find to be true is really resetting on a daily basis, having those yoga sessions virtually in the middle of the day. Because last night I spent 2-3 hours looking up grants for small businesses. So the reality is there. We have concerns. We have fears about our finances. We have a plumber here today in the context of COVID, and we're having plumbing issues in the house, and we're concerned about finances there. The reality is we are worried and we are scared. However, when we want to move beyond survival and have this harmony within, we have to do the work. And it's all internal work. It's all having real conversations with self. It's about looking at yourself in the mirror and asking yourself, what can you control versus what can you not control? Is this anxiety going to be helpful to your household, to you first and foremost, to your household, and eventually, in our case, to our business and our community? The answer is always no. It's never helpful to be fearful all the time, to have anxiety. Now, it helps indicate and it gives us a pulse of what we need to address, but it cannot control our every move. We have to be able to reset and move forward. And that's really important to note, because with our community members, mindset is so important. With family, we've had to really come up with new ways to celebrate birthdays. And I know this is true for all of us. Celebrate birthdays, celebrate experiences, celebrate anniversaries. Soaring is about an internal feeling, a vibration, an energy, an elevated way of seeing and operating in the world. That's my opinion. So you'll know the difference when you're surviving, because your body contracts, you have chest pains, you have stomach issues, or when you've done the work to release and center. And that might mean on a daily basis, because we live inside physical bodies that are triggered by these things. So that's what I would say is the difference between surviving and soaring is what's in here and what's in here, and aligning mind, body, spirit, as you mentioned earlier on in this conversation.
And it could be moment to moment. Yes. Meeting that fear from, I love the idea of the elevated perspective. I just had a birthday last week, and it was not the birthday that I thought I was going to have, right? I didn't get to play with my grandson. I didn't get to hug my kids. But what I did have is we had a little Zoom party, and I got to talk to my nephew in Florida that I never would have talked to on my birthday, not like that. So having the idea of how do I make the best with the situation I have in something as mundane as a birthday really actually made it fun. As a matter of fact, I told my husband I didn't clean the house. I wasn't cooking for days. And when I wanted everybody to leave, I just hit end meeting. It was actually one of the best birthdays I've had, but it was totally different. Victor, what do you want to add about soaring versus surviving?
Oh, well, I just had to get up because I have to talk to the plumber real quick.
But I waited until I saw you back in your seat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very good. So talk about soaring there. But so I would say, I mean, Mali said it, it's a mindset, and it's kind of hard, right? When you have bills piling up and less income coming in than before and all that stuff. So I feel like it's very important to also be honest and transparent with the people around you, because sometimes being too positive, other people are looking at you and going, but you don't understand what I'm going through. Like, are you crazy? Right? So being honest about the fact that, no, I'm scared about that, but I'm choosing to look forward to, how can we deal with this? How can it be fixed? And really, it has to do with understanding your own circle of influence. What can I control? And focus on that and move with that. Because the stuff that you can't control and can't do anything about, doesn't matter if you worry about it or not, it's still going to happen, right? Unless you focus on solutions that you can control.
So are you referring also to being present, like being present to what is true right now, it sounds like?
Right. And just to reiterate that part is more, I was having a conversation with my sister the other day about that, about the fact that, we have these bills and all that stuff, because she was saying that, I was being like real positive and not understanding the other piece. And I feel like she was really saying, well, you're not understanding what I'm going through, I guess, because you don't even see it.
Right.
So it's important to let people know that, we tend to be positive, but we also know the other part, right? Is that we're trying to focus on the other thing, but acknowledge that, I feel your pain too. So hopefully we'll work together and they won't go like, no, that guy's just crazy.
Well, that happens a lot in my family, I must say. The having a positive outlook is mistaken sometimes for denial, and that's not it at all.
Right.
What I've found is when I absolutely do get scared, I do get overwhelmed, and I meet that as best I can, moment by moment, with love. And to me, that means going back to my spiritual practice, right? That's exactly the way it works for me. And what that does is settle me back into the present. When all this started happening maybe about a month ago, just like everybody else, right? I got scared. Oh my gosh. I had a little tickle in my throat. What does that mean? And I had to put my hand on my heart and just say, what is true for me right now? And in that case, what was true was I lived in the woods, everything was blooming, and I was having regular allergy issues.
Right.
That's what it was. But because my nature is to be a worrier, 30 seconds prior to that, I had COVID-19 in my mind. I was dead. My kids couldn't come to my funeral. I mean, I had it. It was like, bam, all done. And that's what our mind can do to us. The thing that I can always control is, how do I feel what I'm feeling? How do I acknowledge it? Because I don't think it's healthy to pretend you're not scared, you're not overwhelmed. But how do I acknowledge that and literally ask, what are you here to tell me? I mean, that's how crazy I am, Victor. I talk to my feelings. So what are you here to tell me? And sit with that. And I find that to be really just so, I just find that to be really helpful. Now, when you had mentioned the yoga, what I was going to ask you now is, what examples have you seen in businesses? And that was one I was going to mention, is the local yoga people here are having online courses. And I think that is brilliant. I never would have, I just think that's so brilliant. There you go. You go, babe. It's fine. So I just think it's so brilliant to be able to do that. I just got invited to be part of a broadcast for a friend of mine in the UK. And I thought I was going to have to travel to the UK to be part of a program that she had. Well, not now. So people are finding these innovative ways. Melly, talk a minute while Victor is working with the plumber there. Talk for a minute about some examples that you've seen where people have been able to pivot, to be fully present with what's going on, and then adjust.
Absolutely. I have several examples. Actually, we have a friend who has an event company, planning major events for clients and also hosting their own events. And within 2 weeks, they were able to be transparent with all their clients. And these are big name clients. Call them up and said, we have to change all of the events to remote in order to stay afloat, to continue to serve you and continue to coordinate these events. We'll help with all of this. Any future and new events that were just starting, they went ahead and offered a discount to help businesses continue with their events, because that's the way to business develop, but do it differently. So that was one way. They just turned everything to remote. They had to quickly learn new technology to do that. They had
what I was going to ask.
Yes, memos and instructions for not only their team to host it and help their clients host it, but also for participants to come on board and easily access things like Zoom. We take for granted that the technologies and tools have been around for us, because we've done a lot of things remotely, but the majority of businesses and those that are in the workforce are not used to working remotely in this way, 100% remote, using things like the chat or muting and unmuting themselves, right? So that's one example. Another example is what you'd mentioned, taking personal physical trainers, physical fitness trainers or physical therapists, and being able to show the patients or clients or customers via Zoom or via technology, video, how to do the exercises. Guided meditation for those who have meditation practice, charging smaller fees with volume so more people can participate and still make their ends meet. So it's about retweaking and editing what was working, but making sure that you can create that in the context of the virtual world and the social distancing that we have to deal with. In our business, what we've done is, at least for the period of time, anything that we were physically going to do over the next 3 months, we turned everything virtual, and we turned it from paid events to free events, except for our ideation events, because those are free to members, and we want to make sure our members still feel like they're getting the value of being a member. So we've had to change those things as well. Those are some examples of how we and also some of our community members who own businesses are doing it. I do want to share that there are some challenges for our nonprofit community. And the reality is, most of the folks that were supporting them that were not corporate sponsors are facing this crisis financially, being impacted financially. So when you have guarantees of a stimulus check that's $1,200 per household with all the different stipulations, a lot of the nonprofits are struggling to continue their mission because we just, as a society, can't gift the way that we used to. And even if we could, we're so worried about making our ends meet. Even if we've been able to put some bills on hold, we're going to have to eventually pay those things back. So we've been able to talk to some of our nonprofit members and have them think about maybe bringing down the level of ask and working on volume. Planting seeds where there are more people that can donate $1 or $5 versus writing that $100 check to see if they can somehow meet somewhere in the middle. So
that's been a very effective strategy for some of the political campaigns or some of the other campaigns. So that willingness to rethink is what I'm hearing, that willingness to reinvent yourself in a new way based on what's going on. Because I think this is really true. No matter what, it's great to say, let's go back to normal. There's no normal. What is normal? Every day we're waking up to a different world anyway. So having a heart that's open to be able to see things from a different perspective. I love your idea of putting on the different glasses, right? Let's just see with this filter today, what are we going to do? I really appreciate the fact that you brought up nonprofits, because for the ones that I'm aware of and work with, their need did not decrease. The need for services for their folks did not decrease. So I know my son was telling me that he's now working from home. So he's saving something crazy like $500 a month in gas money. So I think that when people look and see, well, there are certain things that I'm not doing now, because, we're not going out, we're not driving as much as we do. Some of us are not getting to the hair salon, so that's some money saved right there. But there could be money that we could always share, and that's part of that oneness, and that we're all in this together. I love that idea. I also really appreciate the fact that this is not something everybody wakes up every day and goes, wow, I want to do something completely different. Let's go, right? I have some clients who were therapists or attorneys. They are not used to online consultations. They've had to switch everything, and then there's security concerns. So the willingness to look at things differently, always from the perspective is, how do we all benefit? How do we all benefit? To me, that's that oneness. How does this work best for all? Understanding that not one solution will probably work all the time best for all, but I love the idea of that community feel. How do we come together to support each other in this time?
I feel also the shift in our community and the shift in our work, and us as people, not just as leaders in our community, as people. What has really worked really well that expands beyond internal reflection is gratitude. Mm-hmm. We talk about gratitude a lot, especially in our community, Diane. Yeah. We're all about gratitude and being mindful. But it's the practice. It's the physically being able to capture those moments that typically are fleeting. It's taking those, instead of 15, 20-minute walks, those hour-and-a-half walks, to really let nature be a part of that guiding force. It's gratitude that we, at least in our household, we're safe. Our family members are healthy. It's gratitude that our community members are showing up to our mix and mingles and still wanting to engage. And being in gratitude allows us to then, again, every day waking up, have the the pair of glasses on that allows a little bit more grace and harmony in how we operate. So that's been very helpful, is to make it a point and hold myself accountable to what am I grateful for moment by moment, and catch those moments that in the past I would have been like, yeah, that was nice, but really just say, wait, that was nice. I woke up this morning and my husband turned to me and he said he loved me. That was nice. We don't take things for granted. So I think that really helps in this time of crisis, to catch those moments where we are in a wonderful, amazing position in the context of COVID-19 if we have our health right now, if we have clean water, if we have food in our refrigerator. And I think that helps a lot to keep perspective.
And I think that I love what you say also about, because I know you and Victor, so I know that you have an active gratitude practice. When you have these practices anyway, then I think that sort of helps you ride the wave of this uncertainty. Even when, I'd reference my dad's illness, even when he was on his last days, and we all on this call have faced this in some way with people that we love, I could still be so thankful the people who loved him for the things that he did for me, that I got to spend that time with him. I think you've heard me say gratitude is the door to the divine, and I absolutely believe that. So before we get to our last little point here, since we're on gratitude, I'd like us to share maybe a couple ways we practice gratitude. Lots of people will have a gratitude journal. You referenced that. One of the things that I think is pretty cool to do is if you have a whiteboard, or some people have a chalkboard in their kitchen. I have had clients, and it's something I've written about, people will write a question for their family that day. What memory are you grateful for? I've even had people say, like, what invention are you grateful for? I've been grateful for toilet paper. How about you guys? That's been good, that I could find it. That's been a great one. But there's just something about seeing it and writing it. We've even had gratitude trees where we went in the yard and got, basically it was a branch, put it in a vase with rocks. And I had little, those little tags that you would use for garden sales or things. And I would just have people come in and write what they're grateful for, and we hang it on a tree. Literally, we create a gratitude tree. We did that for Thanksgiving one year. So what are some specific things? Anything else that you do that you could share, Melly?
Well, I write poetry, and I've recently been starting to write poetry, and that's my way of just not only internalizing, but using my body to really make it a reality instead of just being stuck here in my brain, in my head.
Embody it.
Yeah, so I can embody it. So I've been using poetry as a way to kind of talk through the stresses, but also the things that I'm grateful for. Most recently, I've been writing a lot in, like I said, the gratitude log. Victor and I appreciate music. We love music, and we express a lot of what's going on in our world, including our gratitudes, through our music. And then conversations. These virtual mix and mingles that we have every week, these tea with Molly sessions that I've been having with friends, or FaceTimes, things that aren't even published out there in social media, is really just asking, what's working for you? How can I support you? Being in gratitude also means being in grace with the reality of what's going on, and not only being of support to people, which is natural for me, but also asking for the support, which is not as natural to me. Is showing up and saying, I'm having a difficult time today, or I couldn't sleep very well last night. I think I'm fine, but obviously I haven't processed everything. So those are some ways. And then the physical things as well, like the yoga therapy yesterday is also my way of being grateful and continuing on the path of health.
I like that you all had mentioned the walk. I actually take gratitude walks. So while I'm walking, what do I see that I'm grateful for? The people that I've seen, the children, the animals, the flowers, whatever that is. Victor, we were just talking real briefly about any gratitude practices as a way to help stay grounded and present with what's going on, and also help. I think what it does for me most honestly, is it helps me stop spiraling into a reality that doesn't exist. Do you have any tips about gratitude specifically?
Well, one of the things that we do in our business is write articles about, we call them, we love our clients. And any client that we do an engagement with, most of the clients that we have some type of social purpose and want to do some social impact. So we write these articles saying that we have basically gratitude. We have gratitude to the fact that we're helping these other people soar. These other people that are doing these great things that we don't have the skill set to do, but we form a little part of that. So I think that's one way of practicing gratitude, right? And the other one is really tell the people around you that you're grateful for their presence. I mean, we enjoy when other people tell us that, so do it for them too.
Yeah, I like that. I actually write a handwritten thank you note to all my clients when they
Mm.
come on board. So that's how old and Southern I am, y'all. I do a handwritten thank you note. And I have done list. You guys remember the top 10 lists I used to do on the Late Show, right? I will write top 10 things that I love about you. I've done that for my kids, actually. That was a Valentine's thing I did one time. So I think that's really important. So this last thing that I wanted to just expand on before we go to some Q&A is, in addition to what we've discussed, are there any specific tips, tools, strategies that you all can share about ways to meet any challenge and uncertain times you're in and just be able to have that higher perspective and soar? And Victor, just in case the plumber calls again, let's talk to you first.
Yeah, because I think they're gonna be knocking soon again.
There you go. And
You
if
know,
you all came in late, you could see the beginning of the broadcast and you'll know where Victor's been going.
so I actually tell you the truth. I've learned a lot from the people around me. Mali, Brian Kelly, who's on this call, he's amazing. I love talking to him. He gives me perspective. So I think is you have to understand where you are. I have a technical background. I am a very black and white type of person, but I also understand that being worried all the time and being negative is not going to get me anywhere. So my tendency is to look at the negative first, actually being completely transparent. But I have learned that there are tools that I can use to beat that. So I basically know your nature first, and then rely on the resources around you to be successful.
I love that. I'm making a note of something that I want to share as well. Mali, what would you add?
Similar to Victor, I think it does start with knowing your own nature, your triggers, your trauma, your defaults, the things that you aren't even fully, maybe you're starting to have an inkling about where you spiral, as you are using your words. And then being able to be mindful and present to that feeling and listening to your body. I think that's very important. I didn't know how to do that many years ago, but with the tapping and with the meditation, my body often tells me something's not right. If I have a stomach issue or ache, it's probably more than just my physical. It's the anxiety or the fear that's also showing up. So exploring options and tools. Right now, there's some time for us we've gotten certifications. There's so many wonderful resources. If you have not tried meditation, but you've been curious, there are so many opportunities on YouTube, and also many reputable organizations like the Chopra Center has offered a lot of free tools right now to get on that path, to explore it. It may not be right for you. Meditation may not initially work for you, and maybe you don't want to invest the time to figure that out right now. You want a tool that might work better. So try different modalities, listen to your body, what works for you, what gives you that sense of harmony consistently, and use that tool. Use that tool well over and over again until you're ready to evolve and expand that. But definitely we can't do it in this vessel, in this physical vessel. We have capacity. We cannot do it without tools, resources, support, and a strong, safe, loving, compassionate community.
I love that you mentioned meditation. We all met actually through the Meditation Museum here in the DC area, and they offer meditation classes for free, so you can look them up. I happen to believe that in any time, but specifically in these stressful, uncertain times, that this is an invitation to go within. From my perspective, I'm looking at what's around me and I'm thinking, what can I depend on? And I don't really see an awful lot around me that I can absolutely depend is going to always be the same. The one thing I know I can depend on is, I call it love. Love, universe, my connection to spirit, whatever it is you want to call that. That inner connection to the wisdom, to all there is, to me, that is what is, that's never changes. The other thing that comes up for me, in addition to going inside and seeing what's true for me right now, is it just occurred to me that people like St. Francis, people like St. Clair, people like Nelson Mandela, and there are just thousands of examples in history of where people go through deep transformation in isolation. When I think about somebody like Nelson Mandela being thrown in a jail cell for what, 27 years, 25 years in that tiny little cell, deciding there that he was going to forgive, be loving, be kind, coming out of that and rising to be one of the most beloved figures in the world and being president of, I mean, that's crazy. You talk about uncertainty. He met that with that inner knowledge, seeking peace, love, and I don't know that he had joyful times, but what I do know is what a presence and a positive sense of change he was when he emerged from that isolation. And I think that's an invitation for all of us. For me personally, I think that it's tempting to say this is good or bad. What I've found is a way to just meet what is. That when I can not think of something as horrible and just think of it as the way that it is, and how do I bring love to it? And Mali, we're waiting for somebody in our family right now to get test results. I can't tell you that I'm super excited and I can't wait to see if that's a bad result and I'm going to be celebrating that. Of course I'm not. But I can meet that with as much love and presence as I can. And it's not going to happen for me if I'm focused out here. I have to be aware of what's going out here in my world. But to me, that inner truth, connecting through meditation, through prayer, through practices like yoga, where you embody mind, body, spirit, to me, that really helps you be more present with anything, Did you want to say anything else about that, Mali? I saw you nodding and I just wasn't sure.
I love what you're sharing. I just thought about just how our brain works. If we can be mindful of the one thing that's helping us right now and just do more of it instead of trying to do 10 different things. If something works really well, do it consistently, get it into the routine so that your body starts to look forward to it, so that on a cellular level, it starts to really rejuvenate new cells as well, right? With whatever healing is going on with this time, we're seeing some of us are seeing ourselves fully, transparently for the first time because we have nowhere to run to. We have nowhere to be busy or excuses that we have to move from this place to that place, network here, network there. We can say no now because the universe is saying no for us. And so we have the opportunity to look in the mirror, to ask ourselves, do I like who I am today? Who I have become? What do I love about me? What are some areas that I still am struggling with or, having some tension around? And then when this is to credit Brian Kelly, he always says, get more curious, right? So I'm borrowing that from you, Brian. Just get curious. What is it that in my being, in my body, in my mind, is telling me that I'm not in harmony here? It's telling me that my compass is not fully aiming at true north here. And And I would say that if you can start to at least physically move forward with one practical thing that works, move in that direction, because once you start to feel more grace, then you can add the next thing and the next thing. Don't try and solve your life's traumas, during this entire time in COVID in your home. It's not realistic. So that's one thing that came to mind.
And that's a definition of success. I'm not going to sit at home for a week and all of a sudden emerge as, a totally enlightened being. That may not be the definition of success you want to have. For me, I love to put my hand on my heart, go inside and just say, show me what's for my highest and best right now. Show me what I do right now. And that's actually a journal exercise that I do every morning. Love, what is it you most want me to know today? And I write that out, and that's what I do. Victor, what would you add to that?
I think it was all said. I like the defining your what success is, because it's different for all of us. So don't compare yourself to anybody else's mark of success.
Yeah. And what today's success may not be what you think tomorrow's success would be.
It's ever changing, right?
Yeah,
so
ever changing.
Yeah, pretty much just go inside. However you do that, through prayer, meditation, running, whatever gets you there. But look inside and get to know yourself, and then you'll be of service to others in a better way.
Oh, I think that was absolutely perfect. Go inside, you'll be of service to yourself and others. It's always the quiet one that has the best words, right? It's always the one. So thank you both. I appreciate this so much. And what I'm going to do right now, and look at me, I might be able to figure this out, Victor, is I think what I did was just enable the chat room. If anybody has a question, something that you'd like to be made more clear, we would love for you to do that. Did I undo that chat room? I think I did. See how I'm learning and increasing my skills, Melly?
Yeah.
See how I'm doing that? I do want to thank Anita and Brian and Daniel and Diana and Donna and whoever has the iPhone. Glad you're here. And Jane, my cousin Jane is here. And another Jane and Kim. And Tremaine. Hi, Tremaine, Stacy, and Sharon. We've got so many lovely people here. I really appreciate you spending this time with us. Anybody oh, yay, chat works. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions, comments? And that's okay if you don't. I just want to make sure that if you do, we get a chance to address those.
Diane, while we're waiting, I did want to say thank you also for having these conversations. I tuned in earlier this week to the one with the spiritual leaders, and that was just so insightful. And it just reminded us that we all can be spiritual leaders, and that especially in the time of crisis. And to me, being a spiritual leader simply means that you're there for another human being in whatever capacity they need you to show up for them at that time. And that was a beautiful conversation there. It was a reminder that you don't have to be any certain type of leader. You just have to be there and available to meet people where they're at, and to sometimes just do nothing but listen.
I appreciate that. I love these conversations, and it's because I'm curious. So Brian, if you're still on, I just love to explore these and see what other people think. And the spiritual discussion one, to me, how do you allow spirit to lead you? To me, that was a fascinating part of it. So we're hearing some beautiful chats in here. Thanks for this lovely discussion. We appreciate everybody being here. There we go. Okay, well, thank you to everybody. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Mali. I just want to tell you all that we are recording this. I will go ahead and send it to everybody who's on this call. I am Diane Haworth. I am a heart-centered success coach, an author, a speaker, founder of the Be Love Principles. And I want you to know how much I appreciate you. I love each and every one of you, hold you close to my heart. Thanks.
Thank you.